Alright, the Reds, talking Reds, it's Thursday, joined by Paul Cope again today. Unfortunately, you haven't got rid of me. If you don't like me on videos, tough, I'm here to stay. So,
some people said they didn't like you.
I know they did, I see it. We read the comments, and I've seen some of you saying, I'm made up, he's gone, I'm fed up of him, but I'm back, unlucky.
But I'm still here for the people who don't like me. So.
Yeah, and Kofi's here as well. And we've got someone who's boss that's singing Whitney Houston behind us as well. She's not gonna, she's waving. But yeah, we're here to talk about the Reds and the Anfield Wrap as usual, and I'm going to talk about the Anfield Wrap first, to be honest, for once, because we normally get straight into talking about the Reds, but it's been a bit of a landmark for us in terms of where we've gone as an organisation, in that we finally got past 10,000 subscribers to our subscription tour player, so that's 10,000 people investing in that. We worked it out as well, we're doing about 60 to 70 podcasts now a month, which is absolutely mad. When we first started in March 2015, we were doing about 30, so it's gone up and up and up. The quality seemingly hasn't gone down, because we've recently done a survey of our subscribers. They all said they'd recommend it to someone else, they all said to stay and put. It was very, very good feedback. So we're all made up, we're made up to get past that landmark. So we went out last night, the people who do this as a day job, if you like, the office, essentially.
Yeah. I didn't get invited.
No, we didn't invite Kofi.
I didn't get invited.
Sorry, mate.
It's the first I've heard of it. Like,
teams,
nice, isn't it?
There was teams.
Two videos on the bounce, and not a drink, nothing.
I'll buy you a bevy on Friday, lad.
It's too late now. I don't want it.
But anyway, we did that, and we're made up with all the support we've had from you down the years. So thanks very much. Keep on listening. Also as well, and this is a bit mad, but the boys want me to mention it. We're on British Airways flights now. So like when you're like flicking to watch a film or whatever, you can pick podcasts now. And amongst the podcasts are some of the Anfield Wrap's big hits. So yeah, get on that. A few people have sent us pictures they took on the plane. One of your mates did it, didn't he? Say, I can't get away from you, bastards.
And I've just found out I'm on one of the shows as well, aren't I?
There you go.
See, I'm on the British Airways flight, but still don't get a free bevy.
Maybe there'll be a British Airways flight bevy. You know
but yeah, that's all right,
And so you can be on that.
On a flight somewhere.
Yeah, you can be
business
on that.
class.
We'll sort it out. We'll have a chat off there.
Okay. Let's do admin off here.
Anyway, seeing how you slagged me off yesterday and that. But yeah, get involved as ever. So I'm getting the plug in early today. Get involved with the Anfield Wrap. It's theanfieldwrap.com/subscribe. Sam, you look concerned about the sound. Are we all right? Yeah, the sound, okay. So the Reds then. I was surprised by this one because I've not sat down and thought about it, but we've got Man United at Old Trafford on Saturday, early kick-off. Jurgen Klopp hasn't beaten them in the Premier League yet, and I thought, oh, hang on, we need to sort that then, doesn't he? Yeah. I guess the sort of the Europa League, getting past them in that, sort of clouded me memories of it, because I just thought, yeah, he's all right against them. So we could do with going there and winning, couldn't we? Goes without saying. There's been lots of talk. I think the debate show on Sky Sports, they were talking about it, and Craig Bellamy was saying, basically that if United come at Liverpool will batter them, was essentially, paraphrasing what he said. Yeah. And he said, so therefore, he said there's no way Mourinho's going to do that. And we were saying on the show the other day that, because of the league table now, because they got that late win against Palace, you don't really see them opening up, do you?
United?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I was saying to Neil, having a chat the other day, I think Mourinho's in a bit of trouble for this game, because he knows he can't come play us, because the best team, I said this yesterday, City are potentially the best team in Europe, and the best team in Europe tried to play us and went head-to-head with us, and we beat them. And okay, it ended up 4-3, but there was a point in that game when I think if we played them again now, we've become more solid since then. I think if we played them again now, that game could have gone on to be 5-6-1 if we'd have just not let them creep back into it. So he knows he hasn't got the ability to come and play us, but equally, United fans are going to get tired sooner or later of us and City being the entertainers and playing this football that they're used to. At the end of the day, they dominated by playing great football a lot of the time and attacking football and loads of goals and strikers and flair and ambition. And there's only so long that the United fans will put up with winning games the way he wants to win games. And they might put up with it one last time on Saturday, but if no matter which way around this game he goes, if he goes defensive and we beat him, things can start to unravel. I say this a lot about managers in big clubs, but things can unravel quickly, and things can turn quickly, can't they?
And there's already a few little things, isn't there? I mean, he had to go at the fans about the atmosphere. You know, he's got the ongoing issue with Pogba, which has been, you know, some say that's overplayed, but I mean, there was something in the papers the other day where, you know, he'd had a chat with him, and apparently the chat included him pointing at the manager's door and saying to him, look whose name's on that. And like, I don't know, that doesn't sound great.
No.
It doesn't sound like they're getting on those two. So yeah, I'm with you in that, like, you know, if we can stick the knife in, basically beat them, and especially if we beat them well. I mean, you go back to sort of Benitez days when we beat them 4-1. Everyone talked about that forevermore, and it was like, wow, you don't go to Old Trafford and do that. And so, you know, that's what I've been dreaming of the last few days, going there and absolutely tearing them apart. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, that's what I see happening, because I think that the other myth, and I'm guilty of this, that I tell myself, and I think lots of us tell ourselves, that the likes of Conte and Mourinho are defensive managers and therefore they have good defences. But I've watched a couple of the games recently. I've watched the Palace game and then even the Sevilla game as well. And if it wasn't for David De Gea in goal, no one would be saying they've got a good defence. And all of a sudden, even like we bang on about keepers a lot, and there's been a lot of debate about our keepers and De Gea being the best in the world and all this. And they were saying that save he made from Benteke in the Palace game. Did you see it? Like the down with Eder, and even Carragher was saying, with him, you just sort of take that for granted now. Yeah. But the bit they weren't saying was, I thought both goals he conceded. If that was our keeper, he didn't move for the first one in the top corner. The second one goes in the near post. And it just shows, it doesn't matter who you are, the best keepers in the world still make mistakes. They're not infallible. So, like, if Palace can score 2 against them, what are we going to do? Do you know what I mean? It's not like we're going to take a backward step. So I'm not sure they can live with us. And I think if we get our noses ahead, because of his comments about the ground and the stadium and the atmosphere, it could turn nasty quite quickly for him.
I mean, one of the frustrations for me going there over the years as well, and we had a really poor record there for a long time, and it seemed like I was always there from all of them. So I was delighted when we absolutely battered them under Rodgers. I was at that one. That was fantastic. But what always seemed to happen is, you know, we'd talk ourselves up, we'd go, we're all right, you know, we've got a decent side, and then they just seemed to collapse when they got to Old Trafford, whether it was the magnitude of the game, whether it was the ground, whether it was all the stuff about, you know, the talk about the rivalry, the atmosphere, all that. And we just always seem to go, we just haven't got it here. But I mean, look, anything can happen, it's a footy game and all that, but I don't see that in this group. They seem quite steely now when I look at them, you know what I mean? They're like, even in the game the other night, you know, it was a dead rubber, we're 5-0 up. And yet, you know, Henderson's putting a lad on his arse in the 91st minute and standing over him, pointing at him. And I was like, go on, son, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I wrote something on this yesterday for the site, and I think there has just been a bit of a shift. And I saw some comments, people saying, oh, it's easy to go with this now. And don't get me wrong, I don't think it's something we should get carried away with. It's only a few games, but it's good signs that I think some of our senior players or more senior players are taking more responsibility in that regard. You're seeing more of Milner and Henderson, and even the likes of Chan. And he's still relatively young, but he comes across as he's got a bit of an aura about him. And Van Dijk obviously being there makes a big difference. But you can see them on the pitch sort of telling each other to calm down and telling each other to take 5 minutes out the game and stuff like that. So when I think about the ways in which they can beat us, I can't come up with that many. Do you know what I mean? Okay, are they going to keep a clean sheet? To keep a clean sheet against us now is a big ask. As I say, especially when you can't keep one against Crystal Palace. Do you know what I mean? Roy Hodgson's Crystal Palace. They scored 2 against you. So, yeah, I hope they don't talk themselves out of it. I don't think they will. I don't think we can underplay the effect that Van Dijk's had on this team, because having just someone physically that big makes a big difference. Like, and if he's telling everyone it's all right and we're great, it's a bit like when
he wins Everton, though, doesn't he? Wins Everton, he's leading by example. Like you say, talk, and he's so cool and so calm, and like you say, it must be fantastic to play alongside him. You must be looking at him thinking, he's bossing.
Well, I know this sounds like a mad comparison, because he's a completely different player and he's a lunatic, but when we bought Kolo Touré and he came into the team and into the squad, and I remember him saying off the pitch in the interviews, I've been telling all these lads they're great, you know, they're well better than they think they are, and like, I've won stuff and these are better than the teams I won stuff with, and all of a sudden, like, his personality seemed to sort of come into the team a little bit more. And I think that's a similar thing we're seeing with Van Dijk now, and that's just sort of oozing through the rest of the team. And just having that fella going to people, don't worry about it, it's all right if you make a mistake. We mentioned this on the review the other day, that after the weekend's game, that all of a sudden that feels like what it is. Like, we can see the corner or we can see the goal. There's enough people on the pitch going, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. These things happen in footy. So yeah, I'd be amazed actually if we don't go there and at least put on a performance and make it a difficult day for them.
Well, fingers crossed. And one of the things that we're going to see is something the Echo's making a comparison today, just between Firmino and Lukaku. Obviously Lukaku, 75 million quid, big dough on a 24-year-old. You know, he's supposed to be the man that comes in, scores all the goals for United. He's got 22 in all competitions, 7 assists, but that's the same number as goals as Firmino, a man who everyone was saying isn't a proper striker. And you know, you had John Aldridge not long back saying Liverpool still need a legit number 9 and all this sort of stuff. And yet you got Firmino here posting pretty much the same numbers as Lukaku, £45 million cheaper as well, and more assists. And yeah, the Echo have gone into a little bit more detail on it, saying Firmino averages more goals per game than Lukaku, as well as more assists, as I mentioned. He creates double the number of big chances and open play key passes per game than the Belgian, and he averages more successful dribbles too. So yeah, I mean, Big Bobby's better than
boss, isn't he?
Better than Lukaku.
Yeah, of course he is. Like, even without all these stats, he's just boss, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's got better dress sense. He's funnier. He's got more style. He's cool. Like the whole Lukaku, United, I think, are in danger of falling into a bit of like the PSG trap of, well, we just buy a load of boss dead expensive players, and the more money you spend, the better it is. And whilst I have moaned a little bit in recent weeks about our lack of transfer activity in January, I definitely don't advocate it sort of this end of the spectrum where you just go, oh, well, we want him, but we'll get him instead, and it's still 75 million and he'll do. And because where that leads to is you will end up with all these boss players, but no one really knows what. Like Sanchez is another good example, isn't he? He's come into that team, and every time I watch him, I think, I bet you wish you were at City now, don't you, mate? Because he doesn't really know what to do with you, and now you're stuck out on the left wing, or where do you want to? And they just don't. There's just not that sort of interaction that you'd expect to come from all of this, and it just shows that just spending the big bucks doesn't necessarily like solve all your problems, does it? The reality is, Firmino's a well better player, and I remember saying earlier in the season that he was like our album track. When you get an album, this is like proper old school now. I know people don't do this anymore, but when you used to buy an album, you'd listen to it loads of times, and there'd be one song where you'd be like, I love that song, but people who aren't like the main fans know what that song is, but the people who just listen to the hits would never have heard it. He was like that for us, and my big concern with all of this is now people are starting to say he's boss. Yeah. Like on telly, people are saying Firmino's good, isn't he? So I feel like we want to keep him like secret still and not talk too much about him.
Our secret weapon, everyone's talking about Mo Salah and his amazing goal scorer and everything else. Let's keep it that way. Bobby's our little secret, so yeah, don't crack onto the Manx and be boss when he scores an hat-trick at Old Trafford, won't it? Okay, we're going to be back in a minute with the papers. Okay, the newspapers today then. I'm a little bit underprepared for this, I've got to say today, because it's been a bit of a mad one. So first off, you know, we get a message from the school, no school today. My kids are here in the office with me. Nice one for that. Apparently the teachers couldn't get in, they didn't fancy a bit of snow, so they just fucked it off. Well in. I've been meaning to ask you, were we allowed to swear? So we can? We can every now and again, I think, yeah. And so my dad's not going to ask going through the snow either. So I've got the kids, they're in there watching something about trolls, sound. And then also as well, so, you know, I was going to bring them in on the train, I come in on the train every day. And then just as I was about to leave, just was looking on Twitter, Merseyrail tweeted basically one of the trains blew up at Old Roan. Someone's videoed that, and it's on the Echo's website. Just the whole of the bottom of the train blows up, and people have been sitting stranded on a track for about 3 hours. So I was like, okay, that's sound as well. And then Kelly gave me a lift in, and it took approximately 1 hour 40 minutes for what is normally like a 20-minute journey. So fantastic. Thanks for that, the world.
Just this country though, innit? This country's great.
Yeah,
I love the way like it snows and trains blow up. Like, why does that happen?
Trains blow up. You just fuck school off. You just go, I'm not going to educate kids today because there's a few snowflakes.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, we went to Norway the other week. There was loads of snow and everyone was cracking on. It was sound. No one was bothered either. They were just like, snow, yeah, snows all the time, mate. Freezing, I know, yeah. But we still got we've got an economy and that to sort. So we'd just
have to get on with it. Yeah. Did I tell you I had a similar one last week where it came to the end of the snow and it was just cold then, and I was getting the train. And it had gone from a 15-minute service to a half-an-hour service, and I went to the fellow, why is it half an hour? And he went, it's cold, innit?
Oh, I've seen that, yeah. And
it's cold.
Yeah, they just called it like the cold weather service, didn't they? And I was like, what's that? You've just invented that. Yeah. That's not new. That's not a thing.
Why can't trains run when it's cold?
Yeah. And they were like, oh, some of the trains needed to be defrosted before we could use them. Well, did that take all day? Because this cold weather service was still in operation in the night. And it was like, just put an air dryer on it. I got my pipes working the other week, just threw a pan of hot water on them. Anyway. Whitney Houston's going to be chipping in a minute. Right, the papers then. Brian Reid. I like talking about Brian Reid's column because he's my journalistic hero. There he is. Look at him. What a guy. Big red. He's talking about the Ox. I said I was never going to use that phrase. Sorry, the world. Oxlade Chamberlain. It's turning into like a daily pop at Arsenal, this show lately. So like I don't really want to get into that because, you know, poor Sam. Someone said we should do Sam Cam, by the way.
I like that, yeah. You showed me, I like the idea of it.
And so I was thinking, like, you know, maybe I should, like, get my phone now and, like, you know, go on the video here and just, like, film Sam. Sam, what do you think about Arsenal at the moment, mate? Shite. Yeah. So we'll maybe like cut that in because a few people have said they want to see Sam, so you'll get the opportunity now.
I told them yesterday he didn't exist, so maybe that's like I was trying to build up a bit of mystique about him, but
no, he is actually there. You can hear him chuckling away in the background. But yeah, what Reedy's on about basically, he's saying that Chamberlain's performances for Liverpool are another sort of nail in the coffin for Wenger, if you like. Not literally, of course. But he says in 132 Premier League games for Arsenal, he scored 9 goals with 14 assists. He says mainly because he was being played in any one of 5 positions. That's Sam dropping stuff there. He says in 26 games with Liverpool, he's got 3 goals and 5 assists. The last 2 of those assists coming from surging runs through the middle of the park. He looks a completely different player who's fought his way back into Gareth Southgate's England plans, and at 24 will be part of Liverpool's plans for years to come. He says you get why Alexis Sanchez walked away from Arsenal to Manchester United, but Oxlade Chamberlain leaving the club he'd been with since he was 18 for Liverpool should be one of the many final nails in Wenger's coffin. He's right though, isn't he? I mean, you know, Arsenal fans are talking about this as well. This isn't just Reds putting the boot in. They're holding this up as an example and saying, well, why couldn't we get them performances out of him?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Brian's done that today because I've been saying this week, I think players like Oxlade Chamberlain are much bigger, like, sadder indictment of Wenger's, like, where his reign is now, because the Arsenal for the past 10 years have been superior to us. So you can sort of justify losing a player to Man City or Man United because they'll pay more money or whatever it is, but when you're losing them to us and then they're coming to us and within 6 months they're kicking on in the way Oxlade Chamberlain has. What's Wenger in it for now?
Yeah, and it seemed he wanted to work for Klopp as well, didn't he? You know, you've seen him get interviewed and he's like, I felt this manager could take me on, because he turned down Chelsea, of course, to come here as well. So it was like, you know, not only does he want to play for Liverpool, he wants to play for this manager, he wants to work with this manager, feels like this manager can take his career on. I mean, that again is a huge positive for us, that there are players out there looking in and going, fancy working with him.
Yeah, definitely, and it's sort of, when you look back, do you remember, like, Wenger was always the one who was lauded for bringing through young players, wasn't he? And I remember years ago someone saying it's a bit of a myth that, like, name the lads he's brought through that have gone on to be superstars. And I suppose it'd be interesting
Franny Jeffers.
Yeah. When you compare, there'll be people who've never heard of Franny Jeffers watching this. It's great.
Looks like the FA Cup.
Yeah. It'd be interesting comparing the records of Wenger and Klopp. Oh, not just Klopp with us, but Klopp at Dortmund, because Klopp legitimately takes players from being nothing to being superstars.
It's your piece for next week, this, mate.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Start writing it now.
Done a bit of admin there. do read Kopi's stuff on the website. Read everyone's stuff on the website, really. One of the things that came out of the survey that I mentioned in the first half is that loads of people just like, they listen to the shows, watch these videos, but don't go along and visit the site. And you should do, because everyone's putting graft into good pieces of writing on there. So, and I'm not just saying that because I'm involved. They are good pieces of writing. Get involved and tweet about them and argue with Kopi on Twitter. He loves it, don't you, mate?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's the main reason I do it.
Yeah.
Just to wind people up.
It's right.
Yeah.
The other thing then is that obviously Spurs went out the Champions League last night. You've blown it there on the back of the mail. See what they did there. But what's interesting about this and what we sort of pulled out is this stuff really. Says there in the Times, Buffon's winning mentality is stamped all over this team, and all the way through all the different coverage of the game last night, lots of chat about mentality, both of Juventus and of Spurs. Basically, Spurs, as the Mail says, they're blowing it. And it's back to that idea around game management and knowing when to take time out, and also as well, I guess from Juve's point of view, not giving up and believing in yourself. I mean, we watched a bit of it when we were out last night, like, and you were watching it going, it's coming here, you know what I mean? And they all had that gritty determination we were talking about. They were backing themselves to get back into it.
Yeah, I think this is dead interesting, because it's not just the papers saying that the Spurs crumble and stuff. It's literally the players on the other team. Like Chiellini in his post-match interview said, that's just what Spurs are, isn't it? And I think things like that are always dead interesting, because I think sometimes as fans we'll be thinking, oh, we all think this and footy fans think this, and we've sort of put the players on a different level to that. But the players are having the same conversations, aren't they? Like, and if like someone like Chiellini in Juve in Italy thinks Spurs have got a poor mentality, a weak mentality, there's no way that people like Kane in the Spurs dressing room aren't also thinking that. And we've talked about this over the years, haven't we, with the likes of Everton. And I was laughing this week about Sam Allardyce. I thought Sam Allardyce would be quite good for them, because he's like so single-minded and strong. And within months of being there, he just looks like the Everton mentality has just done him. And it's so, these things in clubs can be so deep-rooted that it can just sort of overtake everything else. It takes so long to get rid of. And Juve are a good example of the other end of the scale, aren't they? I read in one of the pieces saying they basically played for 15 minutes out of the 2 games, and that was enough to win the match. Yeah. Because like they were celebrating tackles as if they'd scored goals. They're clearing things off the line. They're just getting stuck into everything. And that's when you've named the players in their team, the likes of Buffon and Chiellini, it's right through them, isn't it? I saw people describing them as like made of iron, and you're like, yeah. So when you've got on the pitch, when these things start happening, we've talked about this in the past, like the Dortmund game and the Chelsea game in years gone by and stuff, you can almost, when we start feeling like something's happening, you can see it on the pitch that the players are like, oh shit, what's going on here? And I didn't see the full game last night, but I can imagine that, Joe, when Spurs are thinking, we always crumble, don't we always crumble? And then Juve are on the pitch going, and we always win. We're sound.
It becomes ingrained, doesn't it? I mean, there was famously Ferguson came into the dressing room, didn't he, and just went like, it's only Spurs today, lads. Yeah. And like, they'd like to think that they've shaken that off. But then, everyone remembers everything, basically, like you just said there. And, you can point to when Leicester win the league. Why didn't Spurs win it that season? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And, like, they must be really kicking themselves that they never. I mean, I'm still kicking myself that Liverpool were in a position to be able to win it, because, ultimately, I think they won it when they actually got over the line. I know they ended up with more points, but I think they won it. They were announced as champions with something like 77 points. Yeah. And that just makes me want to lock myself in a dark room and rock myself to sleep, because Liverpool have won more than 77 points in a number of seasons, and it hasn't been good enough. And the fact they weren't there ready to take advantage is just like,
Well, and as well on Spurs, like, didn't they finish third that year? Yeah. So literally finished third in the 2-horse race. And I know we've done that in the past, like a long time ago, and
he just lost their heads, didn't he?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, it comes down to, I love talking about this, like elite sport comes down to mentality at the end of the day. These are all talented footballers, they're all brilliant, they're all at the height of their profession. But, at the very last moment, it comes down to who wants it more and who's got the stronger mentality. And Juve showed last night that they've got it.
Absolutely. Well, that's been another Talking Reds. Pray for Merseyrail. We'll see you tomorrow.